$3 million is what I'll need to retire at 40 years old, which is in about 10 years. Breaking free of the corporate world, working for fun instead of necessity, and traveling around the world are the main 3 reasons why I want to retire early. However, as someone who's planning to entirely rely on themselves for retirement, this is a huge number if it wasn't for the plan that I created, and I'm gonna share it with you today. In this video, you will see actual numbers, my favorite tools to help me keep track of my goals, and an important retirement strategy that I learned a few years ago. And before I started to set up any plan, I needed to understand what type of retirement I wanted. Do I want to move back to Europe and retire there? Do I want to have the option to stay in a very high cost of living city like New York? Or do I want to plan for a large family and ensure that they all go to college in the US with all expenses paid? My personal strategy is being able to maintain the lifestyle that I'm currently living. In a FIRE terminology, which means financial independence, retire early, this falls into the fat FIRE category, which means retiring with a very comfortable lifestyle. For some people, this means having a comfortable home with high-value objects in their life. For others, this means having the flexibility to travel wherever they want and whenever they want in a certain lifestyle category. There's also lean FIRE, which people refer to when they are okay with living a little bit more frugally, so you don't have to save as much money to retire. Both are valid ways to reach your goal, but you need to understand early what it is that you want and that you feel comfortable with. As mentioned earlier, I'm someone who wants to fat FIRE in life, which is why I'm trying to optimize my income and expenses to invest more. I do this by optimizing my credit card spending, which led me to traveling for free in the past few years, or working on my side hustles. So in order to retire early, the most important thing is to have a solid plan in place that you can follow for a few years and that can be planned for. If you're a high-risk investor, or as I'd like to call them, a gambler, retiring early may not be a good goal for you. You can't really bet on timing in the market, spotting next financial trends before everyone else does, or investing in unicorns. Instead, you want to be stable and frankly, boring. Whenever my friends ask what type of investments I have, I always tell them that I'm not very adventurous. Index funds are the majority of my investments, not just because they're automated, but I also don't have to worry about making a poor decision in the market. I'm also not someone who went big on crypto, NFTs or GME, because I know that they were just short flings and not steady for a long-term investment. In a recession, the biggest mistake you can make is selling your investments. You don't want to be one of the people that buys high and sells low. So all you need to do when the market has a downturn is nothing. Stay put and keep investing. I live with the mantra, invest it, forget it, until you need it. Eventually, I will for sure need this money, but for now, I don't even care how much it's worth, so I'm not gonna spend my energy on it and I'm not gonna overthink it. If you don't know how much you need to save every year, you will not reach your goal, or you can't be able to hold yourself accountable. If it helps you, setting budgets for yourself can be incredibly useful, and having an overview of how much you want to spend on certain things in life can also help you set priorities and save more money. So before we dive into my actual budgets, please note that tax salaries usually have 3 different parts. Number 1 is the base salary that I have, that's what I get paid on a monthly basis. Number 2 is the bonus that people receive, that can be yearly, that can be every 6 months, it really depends on a company. And number 3 is stock that the company gives us. For lots of big tech companies, stock can make up more than 50% of your annual compensation. When I started in tech, I have decided that I'm not going to use the stock that I receive for my living expenses. And that's mainly because stock really depends on the market. So sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down, and I don't want to be dependent on the market that much. This also means that I save 70% of my total income every single year. And in the example that I'm going to show you in just a second, I am only calculating it with my base salary. And now going deeper into the budgets that I have. All of the numbers you're gonna see are based on my net salary. That means the taxes are already deducted. I live in New York City, which is a very expensive city, and I spend about 46% on rent every single month. Then, even though I invest all of my stock and bonus that I receive, I still try to make investments from my base salary, which brings me to about 30% every single month. As mentioned earlier, I have an investment property. I'm not going to list it in my budgets because I actually make more every month than I pay for it. The rent that I charge is higher than the mortgage and taxes and all the other fees included. I'm not going to spend more time explaining those budgets today, but I wanted you to have a good understanding of how I spend my money and what kind of categories I use for myself. For budgeting, I usually use Personal Capital or Mint. I've tried both products and I like both for different purposes. I think Mint is a great tool if you want to take a look at your monthly spending, but Personal Capital is a great tool if you want to track your investments, if you want to track how much you're spending in a year and to project the next year as well. One more thing that I want to mention here is studies have shown that humans function better if we feel like we're in control. So budgeting actually tricks your brain into saving more. Another thing that I'm doing is maxing out my 401k and settling up automatic savings so I don't even have the chance to overspend my money. If your company contributes to a retirement plan, really try to make sure that you take full advantage of it. And this is basically free money that the government and your company gives you without having to pay taxes on it right now. So if you're not contributing yet, you should start immediately. One specific strategy that I started using for the past couple of years to reach my goal is diversifying in real estate. I bought my first property in 2020, and it's a typical investment property in the USA where I only paid down as little as $50,000. The property currently has a 30-year fixed mortgage with a 20% internal rate of return over 30 years, which means that in 30 years the property will actually be fully paid off while I don't have to put in any extra money until that time. Personally, I've been seeing this as a very solid and also low-risk investment, which is why I'm planning to purchase a total of 10 investment properties with similar values in the next decade to diversify my portfolio even more. Also, with the stock market going up and down and up and down, this gives me a bit more stability of an actual retirement plan versus betting it all on the same place. In addition to my investments, I actually try to keep at least 3 months of living expenses in cash on a savings account that I can use for emergency expenses. This may be a big step for you when you start saving, but it's essential and it will actually give you a peace of mind whenever the market goes down or you hear about potential layoffs in your company. Right now, I even have a buffer of 9 months because I'm worried about a potential recession. And I feel more stable when I know that I don't have to touch my investments in case something goes wrong in my life. And I always had some sort of side hustles going on and constantly try to create more income through things that are not my full-time job. In 2020, I started an Etsy store where I sell digital products for $5 to $10. And in that year, I even reached a goal to pay my rent in New York City. Not this apartment, it was a different apartment with that store. The store is still going well, but not as well as it did in 2020. So keep in mind that even with side hustles, those things are nice to have, but you shouldn't bet on planning them into your regular income down the line. Other ways for me to make money are selling clothes or items that I don't use anymore, or giving career advice to people in tech. And if you currently don't have any idea on how to make money online, subscribe to this channel, because I'm gonna film a video about this very soon and I will link it here when it's ready. Now let's dive into some numbers. I'd like to keep my own salary private for now, but a friend of mine has agreed to sharing his numbers for this example. My friend is currently a level 6 engineer at a tech company that is surprisingly not FAANG. His annual pre-tax salary was $500,000 for the past year, with an approximate take-home pay of 55%, which leaves him with $275,000 per year. He is currently living a pretty lavish lifestyle in New York and spends about $10,000 a month, which leads to $120,000 per year. And he's been working for a few years and has saved a total of $300,000 so far. For the next couple of years, he's expecting a really high inflation rate of 6%, but also he expects his income to grow at least 10% every year from now on, which is pretty standard for the tech industry. So with the above calculations, he will actually need about $3 million to retire, and he can reach that goal when he becomes just 39 years old. Remember, this type of calculator only works if everything goes smoothly. And you want to be prepared for any ups and downs that may happen in the market or in your personal life. So what I like to do is I like to keep a buffer for flexible spending of a year or two. So as you can see, early retirement is indeed possible. You just need to have a plan, you need to really calculate what you do with your life, how much you actually need. For example, if I was still living in Germany, my numbers would be much lower, and I would be happy with what I have right now potentially. What I've shared today are the tools and methods that have worked for me, so take everything I've said as a launch pad to reevaluate your finances and create a plan that works specifically for you. Best of luck on your journey towards financial freedom, and please subscribe to this channel.